Hello, I'm Adebisi Idris Olamileko. I'm an equipment operator. I operate equipment such as forklift, crane, excavator, self-loader or boom loader, or sometimes it can be called truck-mounted crane. Also, I operate recovery equipment and I also do truck driving. But today, I would like to talk more about forklift. Now, what is forklift? Forklift is an industrial equipment or truck used to lift palletized or non-palletized load and travel with it over a short distance. Now I would like to run you through the major components of forklift. You'll see that in the video that will be shown. I'm going to be showing you the major components of forklift. To start with, here we have the counterweight, here we have the exhaust, here we have the superstructure. This is the head guide. This is how to mount a forklift with 3-point contact. This is our steering adjuster to help keep our steering in position. But in order to operate the forklift more efficiently, we use our left hand to hold this block and we drive with this, not with this, not like this, but like this. So this hand is also responsible for controlling our gear. This is our gear. We push it forward, the equipment move forward. Put it in the middle, that is neutral. Put it back, that is reverse. Like that. And all that function will be done with this hand. This is our left hand. Here we have our handbrake. As it is engaged. If it is engaged, you push it forward. You press this button here, then you push forward. To engage it, you press the button again, you push it backward. Now it is engaged. Moving from there, on our steering wheel, we have our horn attached to the middle. For some other kind of design, the manufacturer can decide to put the horn at the end of this gear. This is our gear. The horn can be attached at this point where you'll be able to press the horn from here. And don't forget what I said earlier, if you push it forward, that is for forward movement. Neutral. Back is for backward movement. Neutral again. Also, moving from there, we also have here our turn signal. Here we have our turn signal. Push it down, traffic to the right. Neutral, push it forward, traffic to the left. Also, on that same switch, we have our lighting switch. Push it all the way forward, it brings out the light. This is dim and this is full light. Dim, full light. Then you push all the way backward, then it goes off completely. Also, here we have our switch for the revolving light at the back. This is responsible for the revolving lights at the back. This is our ignition point. At this point, we insert our key, we turn it. Because this machine is a diesel forklift that uses the system of preheating. When you first mount the machine for an operation in a particular day, you must at first, after you've done all your pre-operational check that you are satisfied with that, then you come here, you open the ignition first, you wait for the preheating light to go off. That is attached to the dashboard there. After that light has gone up, that is the only time you are allowed to start the fork. Otherwise, you run down the battery while trying to start the fork. So let's take that, let's note it. It's very, very important. Also, we have here our levers. For this particular forklift, we have up to 3. There are some that will have just 2, and there are some that will have up to 4. All the levers have various functions. For this particular one, is responsible for the upward and downward movement of the fork, while this is responsible for the tilting in and out of the fork, and this on the other hand is responsible for the side shifting to the right and to the left. If the last lever is there, that is supposed to do the work of opening the fork and closing it, and that same last lever coupled with this will still carry out some other functions. We may not be able to go in details of that now, since that is not available for this particular machine. But the most important lever in any forklift in the world is these two levers, up and down, tilting in and out, because these are basically what will be needed when you need to handle any material. Without this, you can't lift any material. So now, how does it work? If you drag this lever down, the fork starts to go up until it gets to the last point. But also, when you push it forward, it starts coming down until it gets to the last point. And how would you know if the fork has actually gotten to the last point? When you are trying to lift or when you are trying to bring it down, you can determine that by looking at the cylinders. This cylinder here, we have, for this particular forklift, we have 1, 2, and 3 responsible for the upward and downward movement of this fork. So when you look at it and you are not able to see any shining part again, that means you have successfully brought down the fork completely to the last point. And for lifting it up, when you lift your fork up and it goes and goes and it gets to a point, you don't see any extension from that cylinder again, it means you have gotten to the final point. Also, how you know, the sound of the engine will also change to tell you that you have gotten to the final stage of that cylinder, that cylinder can no longer push forward again. So let's note that. Then coming to the second lever, this lever is responsible for tilting in and out of our fork. So how does that work? You drag it all the way down, it tilts in, and when it does that, the whole body of the mass alongside with the fork all tend to come towards your direction where you are seated, and when you push it forward, it moves away from you, it tilts out. And I've said before that these two levers are the most important lever in any forklift. These two levers are not working, then you can't even call the equipment a forklift. This is what make it operate as a forklift. Without this, you can't call it a forklift. You drag it down, it goes up. You push it forward, the fork comes down. You drag it down, it tilts in. You push it forward, it tilts out. For this, you drag it backward, it side shift to the right, and you drag it forward, outward, it side shift to the left. Those are the three major functions of these particular levers: upward and downward, tilting in and out, side shifting to the left and to the right. And when it does that side shifting, it goes along with the fork carrier and the fork in a fixed position. The last lever is the one that will do the good job of either closing the fork or opening the fork. I hope you take note of that. Moving away from there, here we have our brake fluid. Our brake fluid for this machine. This is where we put our brake fluid. So it doesn't have any, you can size it. When we put the brake fluid, we look at it. Once it's gauged, then we stop. Just like normal brake fluid for every other equipment. Also, we have a switch here. This switch is responsible for the revolving light. The revolving light is that light that shines at the back. This is our revolving light. This one. To create more awareness at night that there's an heavy equipment working in a particular place within any company or site. Also, we have our pedals. This first pedal here does the work of clutch and brake, while this does basically the work of a brake, and this is our accelerator. But this is also referred to as inching pedal. So in order to operate this machine successfully, for example, if you are moving forward and you need to brake, you press this to slow down the machine before you now put it to neutral, and then engage the gear to whichever direction you intend to go next. It's not a good operation if you are driving forward and all the way from forward you jump to reverse. No, you have to do it systematically so that you don't damage the machine or the gear or any part of the machine at any point in time. Also, there are some other things that I would like to bring our notice. This is a diesel engine forklift. In order for you to successfully engage this forklift, this is our ignition. But for you, before you start this forklift, you first allow it to go through the process that is being referred to as preheating stage. You first preheat the nozzles. There is a plate attached to the engine. Later on, I'll show that to us. When you first open the ignition, it does send an amount of heat towards the nozzles, and that makes it to be able to start the fork very easily. Without doing that, you will not be able to start the fork at any given time, except if the machine has been used before and the engine is warm. That the initial state, no. So you preheat. After you wait for the light to go off, when the light does go off, then you are good to go. Then you can now start the fork, and I'm going to demonstrate that now. Now I've engaged the fork. Now I want to further tell us more about this. I want to demonstrate all that has been said before. In order for you to lift up the fork, it's very simple. If you look at the cylinder, there is an upward movement. Upward direction of the cylinder. And if I want it to be faster, all I need to do is to press the accelerator to make it faster. And the speed at which it goes can only be determined by me, not the machine itself. And how do I mean? Because the amount of openings that I leave in the valve will determine the speed at which the fork will go up. Same if I need to bring it down. Very simple. I just allow it to go all the way. I can choose in between the speed that I want. Either I want it to go down very fast or very slowly, depending on the kind of operation that I may be doing with the machine at that time. Very easy. It's not difficult. And for this to successfully drop it, I need to wait for the cylinder to completely close. Now, tilting in, this lever does that. If I need to tilt it, I drag it down, look at the mass and moving towards my own direction where I'm seated. And at the point it gets to the end, the sound of the engine does change. Now if I need to move it out, I'll just keep doing that until I notice there is no movement again along the cylinder. Then I'll know I'm coming to the final stage. And in order for me to use this cannot be used if the fork is completely resting on the ground. I'll need to lift up the fork at first, after which I can now engage this. To move it to this direction, to my right, I'll just drag it all the way to myself. And if I need to move it to my left, I push it forward and it goes all the way to that direction. That is how to use the forklift. Those are the basic functions of the forklift. Very easy. Once your mind is there, you can do it. It's not difficult. It's not as bad as it seems. And after done with my operation, the next thing I want to do is to turn off the engine, ensure that my fork is completely resting on the ground before I turn off the ignition. Otherwise, there might be some other factors that I need to worry about, like people running into the fork unknowingly. The fork is completely resting on the ground. Make it easier and safer for everybody. Also need to take note of our seat belt. Very, very, very important for any operation. Before you use any fork, before you engage it for movement or lifting of load, you need to engage your seat belt. It's one of your safety precautions as a forklift operator. And at the time you feel you have concluded your operation, then you can now remove the seat belt. Very, very important. You need to take note of it. Right now, I would like to show some more components that I have not yet mentioned, though I've discussed briefly about them because of trying to tell you how this operates, but I want to show you now so that you'll be able to identify them all by yourself. So we still maintain our 3-point contact while coming off the forklift. Now we are starting with this. Here we have our tilting cylinder. We have 2 for every forklift. One is there and one is located on the other side. As it is completely tilted out. For you to find out if it's completely tilted in, you won't be seeing any of this shining part of the cylinders. Also, here we have our lifting cylinder or hoisting cylinder. But for this forklift, because of the number of masts on it, we have 3. 1, 2, and 3, responsible for the upward and downward movement. These are our lifting cylinders. For this forklift, we have 3 because of the number of masts we have up to 3 masts. So for this and this is responsible for the upward movement of the fork and downward movement of the fork. We need to take note of that. Why this is responsible for the tilting in and out. Then we have another cylinder attached in between the fork. That cylinder is responsible for the side movement of the fork. This is another cylinder responsible for the left and right movement of the whole body of the fork. That means the fork carrier, the fork guide, which is not present on this particular forklift, and the fork itself. This cylinder is not responsible for the movement of this fork. This fork is adjustable manually. You can adjust it manually by bringing up this safety lock. You drag it to the point and you lock it in between this open space. That's how you position this manually. But for the forklift that has 4 levers, the last lever will be the lever that will be responsible for the movement of this fork. And the cylinder will not be in this shape. It will now be 2 different cylinders, one on this side and one on this side, that will be working interchangeably. You can use them simultaneously along with the lever responsible for the movement of this mast. This is our mast. You can use them. You can be using the upward movement, the tilting, and this all at the same time, depending on how much you have mastered the operation of forklift. Also, we have here what is being referred to as our data plate. This data plate gives us all the information we need to know about any forklift. Data plate has information that is as follows. Model. We have the model number, and here we have the serial number. Here we have the safe weight of this machine. And when do we know this? We need to know this self weight if you are trying to load this machine on another machine, or we are trying to lift this machine with another equipment. So we need to know the self weight so that we know the appropriate machine to use for the movement, for the operation. Also, we have the production year. How important is that? Knowing the production year will also guide us on the lifespan of these hydraulic hoses. If we look at this, we see that there are so many cracks along the body of the hose. That only shows us the number of years that this hose has been fixed. So it's also going to guide us on how we use the machine to carry out various kinds of operation that is related to forklift. Also, back to this data plate, we have here written maximum lifting height 4,500 millimeter, and here we have capacity. Now this is the maximum capacity of this machine, 3,500 kilogram. But they now went further to explain to us that at 3,500 kilogram of load being lifted, you are only allowed to lift this mast and your fork. You are only allowed to lift it up to 3,000 millimeter high. But when you reduce the load to 2,700 kilogram, then you can now lift up to the maximum height of this machine, which is 4,500 millimeter high. Also, more information about the fork now. From this diagram, it is assumed that this fork is being divided into 3 different portions. On the first portion, we advise that from here to 700 millimeter, 600 millimeter, and 500 millimeter. Now, when you pick any load from around this area, from this first section, the machine can support up to as much as 2,400 kilogram of load. If you allow the load to enter inside more, you must the fork more into the load, then you can lift up to 2,520 kilogram of load. But when you allow the load to get to this last point, then you can lift up to 2,700 kilogram of load. Many of us will be surprised that why is it that this fork is 2,700 kilogram why that one is 2,700 kg, and the actual self-load limit of the fork is 3.5. What that simply tells us is that forklift, unlike crane, for you to determine the weight of any load, that you can only do that by trying to test lift. And when you try to lift any load with a fork, how you know if the fork can support it or not is the position of the fork. If you try to lift any load and you notice the counterweight start coming up, it simply tells you that that load is heavier than what the fork can do without having to result in any accident or damage. Don't let us be deceived. This iron for the fork, being a spring iron, can still break if we abuse it. So the reason why we have more bearing capacity for this and this is for us to be able to determine which load this machine can carry and which load the machine cannot carry. If this was designed to be the exact tonnage as the counterweight, then what that simply tells us is that at the end of the day, when you try to lift a load to test lift to see if the fork can support it, then it can deform the fork, and when that happens, you won't be able to lift the load properly again. So that was the reason why there's an expansion for this, so that it's beyond what the fork can actually support, and by that we would be able to determine if the fork can support the load or not. We also need to know that all forklifts operate on the principle of back axle. Back axle means is the back tire that turns, and in order for it to turn very easily for this particular forklift, there's a cylinder attached to it that enables it to turn easily despite the heavy load that is resting on the tire. So we need to note that. And as you turn your steering at the front, the effect is there at the back with the help of this cylinder that turns this tire to either direction, either to this direction or to the other direction. That is all. And this back has also gives it a large turning angle, which means you can walk and turn the machine in a place that is not too wide. It enables you to drive the machine and operate it very easily. Also, this is our position for radiator, but this will be much more discussed in other videos that will be coming. It is not permissible that we mount a forklift from this point where the lever is located. Also, I would like to run us through the warning sign that we have here. This first one, what it means is that it is not permissible or it is not allowed for you to allow anybody to stand at this point when the machine is operational. Also here, what this simply means also is that it is not permissible for anybody to stand under a suspended fork. There can be a mechanical failure that will make the fork start coming down, and that could be that can cause a very serious hazard or even death. And also, this is not a lift that someone can stand on the fork and you lift them up. If for any reason you need to lift anybody up, you need to use a proper lifting platform that will be built in form of a cage. Another warning sign that we need to take note of. The first one, here we have fasten your seatbelt, because in the case of the machine falling off or tipping over, the seatbelt can keep you in position and save your life. Also, we have, if your truck tip over, do not jump out. What that simply means is that when your machine is about tipping over, maybe to the right or to the left, don't attempt to jump, because the machine will be faster than you. What you are expected to allow the machine to fall, after which you can try to pick yourself up. Then this is just basic description of what is expected. This is an example of it from the impact. For example, if your machine is falling towards this direction, you lean towards this direction, so that by the time the machine eventually hits the ground, your body will not be too close to the ground. The same thing applies if the machine is falling on the opposite direction. I believe at this point I've been able to educate us on what a forklift is, what is being used for, kind of load that forklift can actually handle, being it palletized or non-palletized load, and some various components of forklift. Briefly, the counterweights, the lifting cylinder, the tilting cylinder, the levers, the pedals, the horn, the steering, the handbrake, the side shifting cylinders, and also the lights, the trafficator, the gear itself, and the tires, and the cylinder attached to the back tire. So more videos will be coming up very soon. But in the video, I'll be talking more about the engine itself, the combustion engine of the machine, and some other parts that have not yet been mentioned, like the center of gravity of the forklift, like the two front wheel, what it also function out, and what you can gain on understanding how that works. And also, I would also like to shed more light on the usage of this lever in the video. So I hope you find this video interesting, that you like and subscribe and share the love, and feel free to put your question in the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you guys.